So this lesson is about adaptations in animals. So we're going to look at why do animals adapt to their habitats, how are animals in cold climates adapted, and how are animals in hot climates adapted. So to survive and reproduce, animals need materials from the surroundings and other organisms living there. So the things that animals need to survive are food, water and oxygen, and then also for the species to survive they're going to need a mate as well. So animals may be plant eating, so herbivores, or they might eat other animals, so they will be carnivores, and they have special mouth parts which are adapted to eating their specific diet. And most organisms live at temperatures below 40 degrees C where enzymes work best, with the exception of extremophiles which live in extreme conditions such as hydrothermal vents which are extremely hot, or in extremely high salt concentration salt flats. There's certain bacteria that can live there which will have specific adaptations to that extremophile. So the definition of an adaptation is it means that a living thing has a special feature which helps it to survive in its habitat. If animals weren't adapted to their habitats or to the areas they live, they would unfortunately die. So adaptations for living in the cold are that they have thick fur, they have fat or blubber to keep warm. They are larger animals, they tend to be larger animals, so therefore if they're larger, they have a smaller surface area to volume ratio, so that they can conserve as much heat as possible. So if we look at the example of a polar bear, which is adapted to Arctic conditions, polar bears have a very large size and they have a compact shape, so they'll have small ears, small nose, small tail, so that reduces their surface area. They have a thick layer of blubber for insulation and food store. They have a thick hairy coat or fur for keeping body heat in. They have greasy fur which is waterproof, which means that after swimming the water will just run off them. They have a white coat which means they have good camouflage so that their prey won't be able to see them. They have big feet so that they can spread their weight on the snow and ice. So as I said that before, large animals have a smaller surface area to volume ratio and they tend to have quite round shapes and short legs and small ears, so they have small extremities, and the fact that they are large and round means that they have a small surface area to volume ratio. Many Arctic animals will also have camouflage, so the Arctic fox has a special adaptation that in the summer it'll have a brownish grey coat, but then in winter when it's very icy it will have a pure white coat so that it's camouflaged into its surroundings. So now if you look at adaptations for the hot environments, they are adapted to conserve water because it is so hot they may lose a lot of water, so they want to keep as much water as possible, and they want to increase the heat loss because they don't want to get too hot, so they want ways of getting rid of the heat. So they don't overheat, a lot of them will be nocturnal, they hunt or feed at night, so they remain cool in the day. Now if we look at the adaptations of a camel to desert conditions, first of all they have a large surface area, so they've got quite slim, long legs, long extremities, so that they increase the surface area so they can lose heat. Their fat is stored in the hump, so they don't have a layer of fat, much fat anywhere else, so that they can lose heat. It stores water, so it can drink up to 20 gallons at once, so that it can go a long time without having a water source. It loses very little water, it doesn't sweat very much, and its urine is actually like treacle, so very little water will be lost in its urine. It's also a sandy colour, which is good camouflage in the sand, and it has large feet to spread the load on the soft sand so it doesn't fall through the sand. So, as I said, desert animals have a large surface area to volume ratio, so they have larger extremities, bigger extremities to increase the surface area, so they'll have longer tails, bigger ears, longer feet, longer legs, so that they can increase that surface area to volume ratio so they can lose heat quicker. And just to show you how the size of an animal affects its surface area to volume ratio, we're going to look at it in terms of cubes. So if you had this cube here, a big cube, then actually the only surfaces that are exposed are the very outer ones. So in comparison to its volume, the actual surface of that cube that's exposed is actually very small. So larger cubes or larger animals have a smaller surface area to volume ratio. If you then cut that large cube into many little cubes, each of these individual cubes has now all of its surfaces exposed. So if you added all those surfaces up, the surface area exposed is much larger when they're in little cubes than they're in one big cube. So the smaller the animal, the larger the surface area in comparison to its volume. So the smaller the block, the larger the surface area to volume ratio. The larger the block, the smaller the surface area to volume ratio. So in terms of animals, if animals are small, they have a large surface area to volume ratio. If animals are big, they have a small surface area to volume ratio. So really it's just the opposite. The big animals, small surface area to volume ratio. Small animals, large surface area to volume ratio. And that is the end of adaptations in animals.